it's pretty much impossible to describe how much this vibrates because I've never ridden anything that vibrates this much. I take that back. Like a big Harley at idle, that's about how much it vibrates. But it doesn't smooth out when it starts, it just keeps oscillating. The chain is making a ton of racket, and it looks like that chain guides that I made is getting loose. It's probably a combination of that chain guide and a chain rattling. Of course, the seat's not bolted down. That probably doesn't help the vibrations. Neither one of the brakes work. The front seemed like it was going to work, but it doesn't. And then the rear we knew was going to be an issue, and it is. It may be out of gas. Shit, it is out of gas.
Shazam!
Oh, gas is coming out of the overflow and into my knee. Clutch is slipping, which is weird because it barely disengages. Man, it still runs lean on the on. Might have to go through that petcock again. We'll put it on reserve. Still no fan. Clutch is getting better. Bike is running lean again. Huh. That's all the front brake. That sounds lean to me, baby. Fan's still not on. Yeah, it ain't right. It's still lean. I don't think it was running like this earlier. Whoa, that's wet. Jeez. Yeah, she's a running like shit. Whoa, what the hell? How the hell did he get all that mud on it? Oh, I guess that means it's all over my back too. No fender, dirt. I mean, the only thing I'm going to do is clean the pilot jet, I suppose, and the idle passage. Kind of tired of doing this. Okay, a little bit in the sediment bowl. You know, but just strip that. Completely freaking stopped up. Gosh. What the hell? We'll find a fuel filter. Yeah, I never actually washed that tank. I just assumed since it was plastic, there wasn't anything in it. I guess I need to go out and wash it out. Hear that? All right. I don't suppose you can put this in backwards. Maybe it isn't backwards. Oh man. Okay, it's staying in backwards. By golly. All right, upon further review, I think the source of that white stuff is this paint or whatever this is flaking off. I only see it on the neck, but you know, presumably there could be some inside there too, but there is definitely something flaking off up here just around the neck that I noticed while I was fueling it. So that's probably where that piece came from that was in the trap in the bottom of the carburetor. Yeah, see that? Every time it sits, this petcock gets stuck. God! YouTube! And from now on, it'll require pliers. Turn. There. So, yeah, should have used the pliers before I broke the handle. Now, where in the hell am I going to get one of those? Front brake. Whoa! No brakes. All right, so the radiator's starting to overflow a little bit. It's been idling out here for a minute. Fan has not come on. I don't think it's going to. So, upper radiator hose is at 192.02, 163, 164. Lower radiator hose is at 164. Head temperature is at 218. That's too high. I'm going to put the fan on and see if it makes any difference. Yeah, it's already down under 100 degrees. Look at that. 168. The rear brake is getting better, but there's some bit of fluid around the edge of the bleeder here, some Teflon around it. Probably not the preferred method. It's probably more to do to this corrosion or whatever is on the bleeder itself. Thank you, beeping thing. I might have finally got this thing bled. I'm going to use my best screwdriver and a tad bit of force here to make sure these screws don't strip. Got one, and giving it a tap. Ah, there we go. Well, let's have a look. I suspected big rubber gasket thing. Fluid looks good. It's brown-ish. The brake fluid looks really brown in the reservoir. Yeah, there it goes. No bubbles though. Also no brakes. Alright, so I got one of the last pieces I wanted for the Charles bike. It is a tail light. It goes on top of the fender. Smallest one I could find. It's about 5 inches by 2.5. It seems to be what I see on bikes in pictures. Closest thing I could find. It goes on top of like a trailer fender, I suppose. It said in the ad that it had a tail and brake light. Brake light, tail light, brake light. You get it. And it's going to go on the fender. So this was the bottom. It's going to be something like that. I'm not entirely sure. I'm going to have to go back and see if I can find pictures of other people's bikes. I mean, ideally it'd be down here where a taillight would be, but there's no structure. You know, this is the last place. The fender's curved, and this is not quite curved, not at all curved. I want to get it perfect before I start drilling holes. I hate making modifications that are permanent to anything. So yeah, and I have to drill a hole for each of the screws, and then a hole for the wires to go back in there. But that's pretty damn cool. Pull up some pictures of Charles bikes and see if I can find one with one on there. Figure out where they put it. So this is the steel plate that is the bottom of that tail light, and I'm going to try to give it a little bit of contour. So that actually did a pretty good job. Yeah, cool, cool. Now, what happens when you have the taillight lens on there? It doesn't like it. Oh, also this taillight had this little piece of plastic in here. I'm wondering if there was a clear one that would go in there for your license plate light or something. Not too shabby. Yeah, not too shabby. Oh, that's pleasant. Son of a... That's about to get some glue on it. It keeps backsassing me like that. Hope you can make that curve out. It really did help. Nice. Son of a... Ow. Ow, ow, ow. Man, hot glue. Who would have known it was hot? Okay, so I'm super pleased with how this turned out. Alright, I been looking over the pictures a lot. The early 90s gas Charles bikes, they used a light like this one. The shape of the fender was higher on those bikes, but the light goes behind the apex of the curve here. So I've moved this back from where I originally intended to put it, which is a little bit flatter, which works out, but I mean, that thing, it snugs up pretty decent. Unfortunately, this is the part where I have to do the thing that I'm the worst at, which is measuring and placing holes, cutting. I'm a terrible carpenter. So the fender is 151 millimeters wide,
maybe it's 152, maybe it's 150. I'm going to put the center at 75.5 millimeters. Editor, put in that hangover equation thing while I do this math. Put the center at 75.5 millimeters, and then I'm going to look at it very carefully and make sure it looks correct. It doesn't look correct. I mean, if it's off by a millimeter, this is how I get into trouble with my carpentry. If it's off by a little bit, it won't really make any difference. That's it. Now when I drill it, it'll be like here. Now because I bent this, obviously the screw tips are going to be much closer together than they are at the end, so I'm hoping I can fudge it, or I may have to go ahead and just shorten the screws, which I'm going to need to do anyway. Okay, a couple jobs to do here. I'm going to try to back bleed the rear brake, and I'm going to try to install the brake light switch on the rear brake. Man, I should put that on the front brake. That would make a lot more sense. But I am going to try to bleed the rear brake from the caliper forward. But that rear brake has not magically fixed itself. Yeah, it's starting to look better. And the pedal doesn't feel a bit different. That's incredible. How did it get worse? Alright, I need to adapt this plastic connector to that no connector. This is my brake light switch. Or this is my brake light conductor, the green one. And the black one, oops, well, that's broken. And the black one was my tail light. Harbor Freight. Soldering iron heating up down there. Don't make me go find a real tool. Alright, don't watch this if you're a purist. Yeah, these pads are all slimy. There's brake fluid down in here. Okay, there are other O-rings in here. That shouldn't be too hard to find. It's not round. I don't know if it's supposed to not be round or if it is just mashed. But these don't appear to be leaking, which is fantastic. In our last episode, we discovered that the brake caliper was leaking from this seal in the center. The seal looks nothing like a O-ring. It's like it's half of an O-ring. I'm assuming it used to be an O-ring. It's this one seal. I did hours of research to figure out what kinds of material worked with brake fluid, and ended up ordering this giant kit of O-rings in order to get one O-ring for this brake caliper. EPDM. Anyway. Lots of conflicting information out there. It just was not easy to find, and it wasn't cheap. but now I've got a lifetime supply of O-rings. Okay, back to this. There's probably a neat trick to this. I don't know what it is. Oh, maybe you just press it through. I wish that bleeding brakes was remotely interesting, because that's all I've been doing for the last 2 weeks. I had this caliper apart. It was leaking onto the brake disc, so I took it apart. There was a worn out O-ring in there, or a messed up O-ring in there. I replaced the O-ring, put everything back together, got pressure back on the brake, and then the bleeder screw was leaking. So I took the bleeder screw out, dressed it up, and then could not get the caliper to pump up again. So caliper off again. I used an air compressor to pop the pistons in, and now it's finally acting like it's gonna start to work again, but I have a little bit of pressure now, but it's not like it was before. I did some research, and it turns out that some of these calipers left the factory in Italy actually possessed by Satan, and I think I might have gotten one of those. It doesn't have a serial number on it, so I'm not sure where it was in that run, but I think I might have actually gotten one of the possessed by Satan calipers. Alright, the brake has beaten me. I got the caliper off, I've got the master cylinder off. I don't think that the replacement master cylinder that I bought is going to work at all. It's just too different. The plunger inside is just way deeper than the one that came with it. As you can see there, of course this one does not look great. I guess I'm just gonna have to buck up and order that rebuild kit for it and fill my room and shoes and gloves and everything else with brake fluid one more time to rebuild it. In the meantime, the caliper has just absolutely got me beat. I'm going to hook the rear caliper to the front brake master cylinder, see if the rear caliper actually works, or if the problem was with the master cylinder or what. I've bled this thing to death. I've destroyed the bleeder screw, which can't get the caliper to close with the fluid pressure, but if I take the line off, poke an air hose into it, it snaps shut. It was working better last week before I took it apart to correct that leak. Now it doesn't. So before I take it apart again, I just want to see if it's somehow allergic to fluid. See, this caliper just does not work. It will not bleed. I swear I've tried everything to get this thing to bleed. And I've got brake fluid all over the place to prove it. That was a lot of air. It's so much easier with the hand lever than with the foot lever. You can take a break. I'm not doing it. God damn! So tired of brake fluid. Why don't you work now? Seriously. What in the hell is wrong with this thing? Still don't have any pressure. Alright, so I just forced fluid backwards through the brake caliper. down into the master cylinder. I got some air out, not a lot of air, and I still have no pressure on the master and no movement on the pistons. But I do have brake fluid all over the place. Got that going for me. Oh, I thought you were gone.
I'm leaving now. Did you get your brakes straightened out? No.
No. There's still air coming out. I'm starting to get a stiffer pedal here. Handle. Pistons still aren't closing. Or maybe they did. Yeah. Finally got something here. Hot dog. Finally. You motherfucker. Okay, I got a pedal. Slight pedal, but a pedal. Alright, while I'm playing in the brake fluid, I am going to go ahead and install the pressure switch. While I put this back together. Swimming in brake fluid. So tired of brake fluid. Alright, after we use the front brake master cylinder to get the rear brake caliper working again, I gave up on the new Brembo caliper that I bought and got the old one out and set it up on this contraption here so that I can test it and get it, the caliper bled and the master cylinder bled, and I think I finally made some progress here. I had bled it out through the brake caliper and I forced fluid from the brake caliper in through the master cylinder, and then I worked the master cylinder until my hand bruised and still got air out of it, and I actually got some more of that old milky brake fluid out. But right now I've got this piece of carbon fiber in there and I'm compressing this with my very sore hand and it is not moving. So I actually have the old caliper and the old master cylinder, and they are actually compressing the brake pads. I think I'm going to try to keep this as together as possible and put it back on the motorcycle without taking it apart. I'm sure bubbles out. It seems to have helped a lot to have the master cylinder below the brake caliper here. Got to take the shock off. Got to put the carburetor back on. I got a ton of work to do. Well, that's it for this video. Thanks for watching. The next video has not been shot yet because it won't stop raining here. Please like and subscribe so you can keep an eye out for a trail ride or some backyard log crossings or something in the future.
Hey, Chad.
Hey, Daddy.
What's up? Did you notice the motorcycle was running?
I see it. I hear it. Went up and down the driveway. Terrorizing the neighborhood.
Terrorizing. Is that what you heard?